If you walk into a server room, really walk into it, past the biometric scanners and the authorized personnel only signs that act as suggestions to upper management, you'll hear a hum. It's a specific frequency. To a layman, it sounds like air conditioning. To me, it sounds like a heartbeat. For 15 years, I kept that heart beating. I was the pacemaker, the surgeon, and the blood bank for Apex Logistics. I wrote the code that routed the trucks, the scripts that managed the payroll, and the firewalls that kept the Russians and the Chinese from turning our logistics network into a crypto mining farm. I was invisible. And in the corporate world, invisible is usually a synonym for expendable. But here's the thing about being the person who builds the house foundation. You know exactly where the bodies are buried because you're the one who poured the concrete over them. I knew this day was coming. I smelled it 6 months ago when the board started using words like pivot and optics instead of profit and uptime. I'm 45. In the tech world, that makes me a prehistoric relic. I don't wear hoodies. I don't microdose psilocybin for creativity. I drink black coffee that tastes like battery acid and I write code that doesn't break. But I knew they were looking for a shiny new hood ornament. By the way, before I get into how I effectively nuked a Fortune 500 company from my garden patio, do me a solid. If you like stories where the competent, quiet person absolutely destroys the loud idiot, hit subscribe and drop a like. It keeps the caffeine flowing for the team and helps these stories reach the people who need to hear them. Okay, back to the carnage. The backstory is crucial here, so pay attention. This isn't some oops. I deleted a file accident. This was premeditated architectural warfare. 7 years ago, the company was going through a hostile takeover scare. The CEO at the time, a guy named Marcus who actually had a brain, was terrified of losing the intellectual property. He came to me in a panic. He wanted the core system protected, separated from the main assets so it couldn't be liquidated. I suggested a solution. We create a separate entity, holding company for the tech stack. I called it Ouroboros Systems LLC. The company, Apex Logistics, wouldn't own the code. They would license it from Ouroboros. It was a defensive move to protect the company. Marcus signed off on it. Legal stamped it. It was a standard vendor agreement. Here is the kicker. Marcus retired 3 years ago. The legal team churned over. The new board members didn't read the dusty contracts from 7 years ago. And nobody, absolutely nobody, realized that Ouroboros Systems LLC wasn't a shell company owned by Apex. It was a single-member LLC, owned by me, Hannah Vance. Technically, for the last 7 years, I haven't just been the lead systems architect. I've been the landlord, and Apex has been renting the very floor they stand on. I never brought it up. Why would I? As long as they paid the licensing fee, which was buried in the IT infrastructure budget line item that nobody scrutinizes, everything was fine. I kept the lights on. They kept signing my paycheck. Then came the rumors, the whispers in the break room, new blood, Silicon Valley vision. They wanted to turn our boring, profitable logistics company into a tech platform. That's corporate speak for we're going to burn cash and fire the people who actually work. I sat in my office, a windowless box that smelled of ozone and stale pretzels, and I watched the stock price tick up on the rumor of a new CTO. I wasn't scared. Panic is for people who don't have backups. I have backups of my backups. I looked at the framed picture of my dog, Buster, on my desk, and I looked at the thick folder in my drawer labeled Do Not Discard. I decided to do a little audit of my own. I logged into the billing system. The Ouroboros license was set to auto-renew on the 15th of next month. It was a perpetual auto-renew, cancelable only by written notice from the CTO. I leaned back in my chair, the mesh creaking under the weight of 15 years of carrying this department. If they wanted to play games, they should have checked who owned the board. Most people think IT is about fixing printers. It's not. It's about control. And the person with the root password is God. I was just waiting for the atheist to show up and try to tear down the church. The mood in the office was shifting. The younger devs, kids fresh out of boot camps who copy-pasted code from Stack Overflow, started acting twitchy. They stopped making eye contact. They knew the executioner was coming. I just didn't expect the executioner to be wearing a vest made of recycled plastic bottles and a smile that cost more than my car. I prepared. I didn't delete anything. That's illegal. I didn't plant a virus. That's amateur hour. I just made sure that every single protocol, every dependency, and every API call was strictly compliant with the licensing agreement held by Ouroboros Systems. If they wanted to fire me, they were going to have to fire the vendor too. And usually when you evict the landlord, he takes the keys with him. I waited. Silence is a weapon. I sharpened mine. His name was Braden. Of course it was Braden. He looked like he was manufactured in a lab funded by venture capitalists who think disruption is a personality trait. He walked into the open plan office on a Tuesday, wearing Common Project sneakers and a t-shirt that said code is poetry. He was 32, had ex-Google in his Twitter bio, he was there for 6 months as a contractor, and he smelled like sandalwood and unearned confidence. The first all-hands meeting was a masterclass in cringe. He jumped on the stage, literally jumped like a golden retriever with a caffeine addiction and clapped his hands. Team, he said, his voice projecting without a microphone. We are too slow. We are dinosaurs. I looked at the stack and frankly it smells like a museum. We're running on legacy code. We're running on fear. From now on, we move fast and break things. I sat in the back row, sipping my lukewarm coffee. Move fast and break things. Motto of people who don't have to clean up the mess. In logistics, if you break things, trucks don't move. Medicine doesn't get to hospitals. Food rots in warehouses, but Braden didn't care about the trucks. He cared about the stack. He didn't introduce himself to me. I was just the middle-aged woman in the corner with the resting murder face. He spent the first week meeting with the product ninjas and the UX wizards. He ignored the infrastructure team entirely. He called us the plumbers. We need to get off this on-premise garbage, I heard him say to a sycophant in the hallway. Cloud native, serverless, blockchain integration for supply chain transparency. I almost laughed out loud. Blockchain, for a company that ships cardboard boxes, it's like putting a spoiler on a tractor. My first direct interaction with him happened on day 4. He barged into my office without knocking. He looked around at my dual-monitor setup and the whiteboard covered in network topology diagrams with a sneer. Hannah, right? He asked, not waiting for an answer. I'm looking at the budget. Who is our Ouroboros Systems? We're paying them a fortune for. What is this, core logic licensing? My heart did a slow, steady thud. This was it. He was pulling the thread. That's the core architecture, Braden, I said, keeping my voice level. It's the proprietary engine that runs the routing algorithms. It's licensed middleware. Why are we renting middleware? He laughed, a short, barking sound. We have a team of 50 devs. We can build this in-house. It's just routing, right? Google Maps API, a little Python, boom, done. It's not just routing, I explained, trying to use small words. It's compliance. It's load balancing for 10,000 concurrent trucks. It's 15 years of edge case handling. You can't just Google Maps hazardous material transport regulations. He waved a hand dismissively. You're thinking in constraints, Hannah. That's the problem with the old guard. You see walls, I see doors. I'm canceling this contract. We're going to rebuild the core and go. Make it lean. The license is the only thing keeping the legacy database talking to the new front end, I warned. If you cancel it, the API keys revoke automatically. The system is designed to fail-safe into a locked state to protect the IP. Stop, he held up a hand. Just stop. You're using fear tactics to justify lazy vendor management. I'm canceling it. And frankly, Hannah, this attitude, it's toxic. It's blocking the synergy I'm trying to create. Synergy? God, I hated that word. I advise against that, Braden, I said, turning back to my screen. Strongly. Noted, he said, and walked out. I watched him go. He was a peacock strutting into a coyote den, convinced his feathers were armor. He didn't know I was the coyote. He didn't know our Ouroboros was me. He just saw a line item to cut so he could show the CEO he was optimizing burn rate. I opened my personal laptop, never used company hardware for the real work, and checked the Ouroboros admin panel. The user admin Apex was active. Status, good standing. And I saw the notification pop up on the company Slack. Braden had created a new channel called Project Phoenix. The description read, rebuilding the legacy trash from scratch, no more expensive vendors, pure code. He was mocking my life's work in a public channel. He called it legacy trash. I felt a coldness settle in my chest. It wasn't sadness. It was the feeling of a sniper adjusting for windage. He wanted to rebuild it? Fine. But first, he had to tear it down. And he was about to realize that the trash he was so eager to throw out was actually the load-bearing wall holding the roof up. I started organizing my files. I downloaded my personal performance reviews from the last decade. I saved every email where I had warned previous management about the fragility of the system. I created a paper trail so dense it would choke a grand jury. Braden thought he was the hero of this story. He thought he was Elon Musk. He was about to find out he was just the guy who unplugged the freezer because he didn't like the humming sound. The meeting invite hit my inbox on Friday morning. Subject, role realignment/transition. Location, glass fishbowl conference room. The fishbowl, the room with glass walls in the center of the office so everyone could see the execution happen in real time. It was a power move. Braden wanted an audience. He wanted to show the tribe that he was killing the matriarch. I walked in at 10 o'clock a.m. sharp. Braden was sitting at the head of the table, flanked by a nervous HR rep named Tiffany who looked like she wanted to be literally anywhere else. Braden didn't stand up. He was scrolling on his phone. Have a seat, Hannah, he said, not looking up. I sat. I placed my folder on the table. The folder contained 2 things: the termination clauses of my employment contract, a copy of the Ouroboros Systems Master License Agreement, highlighted in neon yellow. So Braden started, finally locking his phone. We're making changes. Big changes. Project Phoenix is moving faster than anticipated. We've got some rockstar junior devs who are churning out code at a velocity you just can't match. Velocity isn't quality, Braden, I said softly. See that? He pointed a finger at me. That negativity. that resistance to speed. That's exactly why we're here. Hannah, you've been here a long time, maybe too long. You're entrenched in the old ways, and frankly, your salary is hefty. We can hire 3 hungry juniors for what we pay you to maintain a system we're deleting. Tiffany from HR cleared her throat. Hannah, the company has decided to eliminate your position effective immediately. We're offering 2 weeks of severance in exchange for signing a non-disparagement agreement. 2 weeks, 15 years of service. Late nights, missed birthdays, saving the company from ransomware attacks on Christmas Eve, and they offered me 2 weeks. I'm not signing anything, I said. Braden laughed. Suit yourself, then you get nothing. Look, Hannah, take some advice. Go find a nice government job, something slow, something where you can push paper and retire. You're too slow for this industry, sweetheart, sweetheart. The word hung in the air like a fart in an elevator. I saw Tiffany wince. I stood up slowly. I didn't yell. I didn't flip the table. I channeled every ounce of ice-cold rage into my posture. I smoothed my skirt. I picked up the folder. I expected this, I said, so I prepared this for you. I slid the folder across the mahogany table. What's this? Recipes? Braden smirked. It's the documentation for the third-party dependencies, I lied, and the contact info for the vendors. Specifically, licensing agreement for the core architecture. The one I'm canceling? He didn't even open it. He just pushed it to the side. We don't need it. We're going native. You really should read the fine print, Braden, especially the part about termination of service and data lockout protocols. I don't read legacy contracts, Hannah. I shred them. He stood up, signaling the meeting was over. Please have your desk cleared in 30 minutes. Security will escort you out. I walked out of the fishbowl. The entire office was silent. Heads were bowed over keyboards, but I knew they were watching. The young devs looked terrified. The older ones, the few that were left, looked defeated. I went to my desk. I grabbed my bag. I grabbed the picture of Buster. I left the company laptop. I left the passcard. I walked to the elevator. Braden was standing near the coffee machine, high-fiving a 22-year-old product ninja. He looked at me and gave a little mock salute. Good luck in the slow lane, he called out. The elevator doors closed, cutting off his grin. I got into my car, a sensible Toyota Camry that I paid for in cash. I sat there for a moment, my hands gripping the steering wheel. I wasn't crying, I was vibrating. I pulled out my phone. I opened the Uber Eats app and ordered $50 worth of sushi to my house. Then I opened my email app, my personal one. There was a notification from the automated billing system for our Ouroboros systems. Subject, cancellation request received. From Braden CTO at Apex Logistics.com message, cancel this immediately. We are not paying for this trash anymore. He had done it. He had actually sent the email. He hadn't read the folder. He hadn't checked the LLC registration. He just fired the vendor. The system was programmed to respond automatically. Response cancellation accepted. Service will terminate at the end of the current billing cycle. Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Today was Friday. He had 48 hours. I put the car in drive. You want speed, Braden? I whispered to the empty car. I'll show you speed. There's a specific kind of joy in doing absolutely nothing while knowing a catastrophe is barreling toward your enemies. The Germans probably have a word for it. I call it the weekend. I spent Saturday gardening. I pruned my hydrangeas. I mulched the flower beds. My hands were covered in dirt, real dirt, not the metaphorical filth of office politics. My phone buzzed occasionally, texts from former coworkers asking if I was okay. I'm fine, I replied, better than fine. I didn't tell them to run. They needed the paycheck. Besides, they couldn't stop what was coming. Saturday night, I poured a glass of terrifyingly expensive Cabernet. Bottle I had been saving for my retirement or my wedding, whichever came first, spoiler. It was the retirement, and I opened my laptop on the patio. I wasn't logged into Apex's systems. I didn't need to be. I was logged into my system, the Ouroboros dashboard. It was a beautiful thing, minimalist, clean. A single countdown timer was ticking away in the center of the screen. Time remaining until license expiration. 28 hours, 14 minutes. I checked the logs. Braden's team was busy. The traffic on the Apex servers was spiking. They were trying to rip and replace. I could see the API calls. They were trying to bypass the Ouroboros authentication layer. Good luck, boys, I muttered, swirling my wine. The Ouroboros code wasn't just a plugin. It was the nervous system. The database schema was encrypted with a key that generated dynamically based on the active license. If the license died, the key died. If the key died, the data became gibberish. It was a dead man's switch designed to prevent IP theft. Marcus, the old CEO, had insisted on it. If they steal the company, he had said, I want them to inherit a brick. Braden was currently trying to perform a heart transplant with a plastic spoon. I saw a flurry of activity around 2 a.m. They were deploying code to production on a Saturday night. Rule number 1 of IT, never deploy on a Friday or Saturday unless the building is on fire. Because if you break it, you ruin everyone's weekend. Braden was breaking it. I saw error rates climbing. 0.5%, 1.2%, 3%, small numbers to a layman. Catastrophic numbers for a logistics company. That meant 3% of the trucks were getting the wrong coordinates. 3% of the invoices were failing to generate. I went to bed and slept like a baby. A baby who had just set a delayed blast fuse under the crib of a monster. Sunday morning, I went to brunch. I had eggs Benedict and 2 mimosas. I checked my phone. No missed calls from the company. Of course not. They were too proud. They thought they were hitting minor turbulence. I scrolled through LinkedIn. Braden had posted a picture of the team eating pizza in the conference room at 4 a.m. Caption, the hustle never stops. Crushing legacy bugs, #Project Phoenix #disrupt. I zoomed in on the photo. In the background on a monitor, I could see a terminal window full of red text. Red text is never good. He was posting his own failure and calling it hustle. The irony was delicious. It tasted better than the hollandaise sauce. Sunday evening, time remaining 4 hours. I sat in my living room knitting. Yes, knitting. I was making a scarf. It was meditative. Knit 1, purl 2. Destroy a corporation. The phone rang at 8 p.m. It was Greg from DevOps. Greg was a good guy. He had 3 kids and a mortgage. I picked up. Hannah, he whispered. He sounded like he was hiding in a closet. Hey Greg, I'm knitting. What's up? It's bad, Hannah. It's really bad. Braden had us bypass the licensing check. He hard-coded a true value into the auth module. Oh dear, I said, feigning surprise. That sounds risky. It worked for like an hour. Greg said, his voice trembling. But now the database is acting weird. It's returning garbage, characters that look like wingdings. We can't read the customer manifests. Sounds like an encryption mismatch, I said calmly. Braden is screaming that you sabotaged the code. He's threatening to sue you. I didn't touch the code, Greg. I haven't logged in since Friday. Braden canceled the license. He's driving a car after canceling the insurance and cutting the brake lines. He says he's going to fix it by morning. He's rewriting the schema. Greg, I said gently, go home. Tell him you're sick. Just go home. Why? Because at midnight, the hard lock kicks in. When the license officially expires, the system doesn't just return garbage. It shuts down the ports. It locks the servers. It's a security feature. Go home, Greg. He hung up. I looked at the clock. 9 p.m., 3 hours to go. I poured another glass of wine. I put on some smooth jazz. I waited for the fireworks. Monday morning. The sun rose, birds chirped, and Apex Logistics ceased to exist as a functional entity. I woke up at 7 a.m., made coffee, and turned on the local news. Nothing yet. The supply chain moves slowly until it stops moving entirely. Then it becomes headline news very fast. I checked my email. Still nothing from official channels. But my LinkedIn inbox was exploding. Messages from recruiters, heard you're on the market. Messages from former colleagues, WTF is happening. And one message from a major client's operations manager, a guy I'd known for 10 years. Dave from Pharma Corp, Hannah, I can't get anyone at Apex on the phone. Our tracking portal shows all our shipments are located in Null, Antarctica. We have insulin on those trucks. Call me. I didn't call him. I couldn't. I wasn't an employee. Liability is a tricky thing. If I offered help now, I could be blamed for interfering. I had to let it burn. I logged into the public-facing tracking site for Apex. Error 503, service unavailable. Beautiful. Inside the building, as I later learned from Greg, it was chaos. At 8 a.m., the drivers started calling in. Their handheld scanners weren't working. They couldn't scan packages onto the trucks. They couldn't get route updates. Thousands of drivers, sitting in idling trucks across the country, staring at black screens. Braden was apparently running around the office like a headless chicken in designer sneakers. He was blaming the cloud provider. He was blaming the ISP. He was blaming Russian hackers. He called an emergency meeting with the CEO, Robert. Robert was a money guy. He didn't know Python from a Python. It's a legacy bug. Braden reportedly shouted. Hannah left a logic bomb. She sabotaged us on her way out. Robert, to his credit, asked a simple question. Can you fix it? Yes, we just need to migrate to the new stack. I need 24 hours. He was lying. He didn't need 24 hours. He needed a miracle or a time machine. The license had expired at midnight. The Ouroboros system had done exactly what it was designed to do. It detected an unauthorized instance because the license was invalid. It initiated the data shield protocol. It encrypted the entire database at the storage level and locked the API keys. To unlock it, you needed a valid license key. To get a valid license key, you needed to pay Ouroboros systems. To pay Ouroboros systems, you needed to not be an arrogant tech bro who canceled the contract 2 days ago. Around 10 a.m., the first big domino fell. Major automotive client threatened to pull their contract instantly if the line wasn't moving by noon. That contract was worth $50 million a year. I was sitting on my couch, watching The Price is Right, when my phone finally rang with the number I was waiting for. It wasn't Braden. It wasn't HR. It was legal. Specifically, the general counsel, a woman named Alina. Alina was sharp, ruthless, and the only person in that building I respected besides myself. Miss Vance, she said, her voice was tight. Hello, Alina, enjoying your Monday? Cut the crap, Hannah, the building is on fire. Braden says you planted a virus. Braden is a moron, Alina, you know that. He says the system is locked. It's asking for a master key, correct. It's a security feature. Anti-theft, who's stealing it? Technically, Apex Logistics. You're using unlicensed software. License for the core architecture expired yesterday. I believe the CTO canceled it explicitly via email on Friday. Would you like me to forward you the receipt? There was a long silence on the other end. I could hear Alina typing furiously. She was pulling up the contract, the one she probably signed off on 7 years ago without reading the vendor name closely. Ouroboros Systems, she muttered. That's an external vendor? Single member LLC, I said, sipping my coffee. Managed by Hannah Vance. Oh my god, Alina whispered. You own the stack. I own the IP, Alina. You guys were just renting the furniture. And Braden decided to stop paying rent. Hannah, this is extortion. No, Alina. Extortion is forcing someone to pay for something they don't need. This is just business. You have a disruptive service outage because your CTO failed to maintain critical vendor relationships. I'm just a vendor standing by to assist. For fee. What do you want? I want Braden out of the room. And I want the CEO on the line. And Alina? I charge double for emergency consulting. Hold on. While Alina put me on hold, I imagined the scene in the server room. Usually server rooms are cold and loud with fan noise. Today, it would be hot and loud with human noise. Developers huddled around terminals, sweating through their hoodies, typing sudo restart as if that would magically fix a legal encumbrance. The silence of the technology was the loudest thing. The screens were static, access denied, license invalid, contact vendor. It's a chilling phrase, contact vendor. It implies there is a higher power, a gatekeeper. For years, they thought the gatekeeper was just a middle-aged woman named Hannah who brought donuts on Fridays. They didn't realize Hannah was the one holding the keys to the gate. Lena came back on the line. Her voice was different now. Less accusatory, more desperate. Robert wants to see you. Now, I'm not an employee, Alina. I don't respond to wants to see you. I respond to consultation requests. Fine. We are formally requesting an emergency consultation with our Ouroboros systems. What's your rate? My standard rate was in my salary. My consultant rate is $500 an hour, but for an emergency lockout recovery. It's a flat fee. We can discuss it when I arrive. And Alina, tell Braden if he touches one more line of code, the price goes up. Just get here, Hannah. I hung up. I didn't rush. I took a shower. I put on my best suit, a sharp, charcoal blazer that I usually save for board meetings. I put on lipstick, wore paint. I drove to the office. The parking lot was full, but there was a strange energy. People were pacing outside on their phones, drivers loading docks. Looking bored and angry, I walked into the lobby. The receptionist, a sweet girl named Sarah, looked at me with wide eyes. Hannah, you're back, thank God. The coffee machine is broken too, but that's the least of our problems. I'm just visiting, Sarah. I smiled. I need a visitor badge. Don't be silly, your badge still? My badge was deactivated Friday, Sarah. I need a visitor badge. Vendor. She blinked, confused, but printed it out. I slapped the sticker on my lapel. Hannah Vance, visitor vendor. I walked through the security gates. I didn't go to the IT department. I went straight to the executive suite on the top floor. The elevator ride was slow. I checked my reflection in the mirrored walls. I didn't look like a disgruntled ex-employee. I looked like a CEO. When the doors opened, the noise hit me. The executive floor was usually a library. Today it was a trading floor during a crash. Assistants were running with papers. Phones were ringing off the hook. I saw Braden. He was standing outside the CEO's office looking pale. His hair was messy. The Code is Poetry t-shirt had sweat stains. He saw me. His eyes narrowed. You, he hissed, marching over. You did this. You locked us out. I'm going to have you arrested for cyberterrorism. Hello, Braden, I said, my voice cutting through the noise. I hear you're having some trouble with your legacy systems. I thought they were trash. Undo it, he shouted. Grabbing my arm, I pulled away sharply. Don't touch me and don't shout at the talent. Talent, you're a hacker. I'm the copyright holder. I corrected him, and you are the unauthorized user. Alina stepped out of the boardroom. She looked exhausted. Braden, shut up, she snapped. Hannah, come in. Braden tried to follow. Not you, Braden, Alina said. I'm the CTO, he screamed. I need to be in there. You're the reason we're in there, Alina said coldly. Wait here. I walked past him. I caught his eye. I didn't smile. I didn't smirk. I just looked at him with the detached pity one has for a bug on a windshield. I entered the boardroom. Robert, the CEO, was sitting at the head of the table. He looked 10 years older than he had on Friday. Hannah, he said, rubbing his temples. Fix it. Hello, Robert, I said, taking a seat. I didn't open my folder this time. I didn't need to. We have a bit of a contract dispute to settle first. The boardroom smelled of fear and stale coffee. Robert stared at me, his eyes bloodshot. He was a man who was used to solving problems with money or intimidation. He was realizing that neither would work quickly enough to save him. This is blackmail, Robert said, his voice low. No, Robert, I said, placing my hands on the table. Blackmail is illegal. This is contract law. Specifically, Section 14, Paragraph B of the vendor agreement signed 7 years ago by your predecessor. In the event of contract termination, all licensed software licenses are immediately revoked, and data access is suspended to protect the intellectual property of Ouroboros systems. You are Ouroboros systems, Robert shouted, slamming his hand on the table. You worked for us. I worked for you as a systems architect, I said calmly. Ouroboros Systems is a separate legal entity that licensed technology to you. My employment contract specifically carved out pre-existing IP. I declared it. Legal signed it. You guys just got comfortable and forgot that you didn't own the engine in your car. Alina slid a document across the table to Robert. She's right, Bob. I pulled the file. It's watertight. Marcus signed it. We've been paying the licensing fee for years. It's not her fault Braden canceled it without checking the vendor details. Robert looked at the paper, then at me. Why didn't you warn him? I did, I said. I handed him a folder with the contract in it on Friday. He told me he doesn't read legacy contracts. He told me I was too slow. He told me to leave. So you let the company crash? I let the company experience the consequences of its leadership decisions, I corrected. I didn't press a button, I just stopped holding the door open. Robert sank back into his chair. How long to turn it back on? 5 minutes, I said. It's just a license key. I input the code, the encryption decrypts, the APIs unlock. Everything goes back to normal. Do it, not yet. What do you want, Hannah? Your job back? I laughed. A dry, genuine laugh. God, no. Why would I want to work for a company that treats 15 years of loyalty like baggage? I don't want a job. Want a contract? Fine. We reinstate the old contract. No, I said. The old contract was a friends and family rate. That rate is gone. You fired the friend. Now you're dealing with the market. I slid a single sheet of paper across the table. I had printed it that morning. Here are the new terms for the master license. Robert picked it up, his eyes widened. This is triple the previous rate. Inflation, I shrugged. And a stupidity tax for the weekend I spent worrying. And a 5-year guaranteed term? Non-cancelable? Stability is important, Robert. You don't want another Braden coming in and unplugging the life support. This is robbery. This is the cost of doing business. You have trucks sitting still. You're losing, what, $100,000 an hour. My yearly fee is what you lose in a morning. It's a bargain. Robert looked at Alina. Alina nodded slightly. She knew I had them. One more thing, I added. What? Robert snapped, the CTO. Braden, what about him? He goes, today, for cause, gross negligence resulting in critical system failure. Robert hesitated. He's the board's golden boy. He's a liability, I said. He canceled a critical vendor contract without due diligence. He caused a catastrophic outage. If you keep him, I walk, and our Robero Systems walks with me. You can rebuild your stack from scratch. It'll take 6 months, maybe a year. Do you have a year, Robert? Robert closed his eyes. He knew the answer. The board would eat him alive if the stock tanked tomorrow. Alina, Robert said quietly, draft the termination letter for Braden. He looked at me and signed the damn contract. I pulled a pen from my pocket. I'll need a countersignature, and the wire transfer for the first year upfront. Bank details are on the bottom. 10 minutes later, the wire transfer hit my business account. I checked it on my phone. The number was long, very long. It was enough to pay off my mortgage, buy a vacation home, and keep me an expensive wine for the rest of my life. I stood up. Pleasure doing business with you, Robert. Just fix the damn servers, he grumbled. I walked out of the boardroom. Braden was still waiting in the hallway, pacing. When he saw me, he puffed out his chest. Well, he sneered. Did they arrest you? Actually, I said, they just paid me. Alina stepped out behind me. She was holding a piece of paper. Not a folder, just a single sheet. Braden, Alina said, we need to talk. Not now, Alina. I need to get in there and manage the crisis. There's no crisis anymore, I said. I'm handling it. You're fired. Actually, I leaned in close. You are. Braden froze. What? Alina handed him the paper, effective immediately. Cause, gross negligence. Security will escort you out. Please hand over your badge and phone. Braden looked at the paper, then at me, then at the closed door of the CEO's office. His face went through the 5 stages of grief in about 6 seconds. Denial, anger, bargaining. He skipped depression and went straight to shock, but Project Phoenix, he stammered, is canceled, I said. Turns out the Phoenix didn't rise, it just burned to death. I walked past him towards the server room. I didn't look back. I could hear him shouting, do you know who I am? As security approached him. I walked into the IT department. The silence was still heavy. Greg saw me come in. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. Hannah, he asked, what are you doing here? Consulting, Greg, I said. I sat down at terminal, my old terminal. It felt familiar. I cracked my knuckles. I opened the command line. I typed in the command, our Roberos unlock key new license key. I hit enter. The screen flashed green. License verified. Restoring system access. Decrypting data. A cheer didn't go up immediately. It was a slow ripple. First, one screen flickered to life, then another. Then the phone started ringing, not with complaints, but with confirmations. Truck 404 is back online. Invoices are printing. Greg looked at me, his jaw on the floor. You just fixed it in 10 seconds. It wasn't broken, Greg, I said, standing up. It was just locked. Never forget the difference. I looked around the room. The young devs, ones who had ignored me last week, were staring at me with awe. They realized what had happened. They realized who the real boss was. I didn't stay to mentor them. I didn't stay to explain how the code worked. They could read the documentation. I had updated it, after all. I walked out of the server room, through the lobby, and out the front door. I passed Braden being escorted to his Tesla by 2 security guards. He was holding a box of his personal effects, mostly succulents and participation trophies. He didn't look at me. He was too busy crying on the phone to his dad or his lawyer or whoever listens to people like him. I got into my Camry. I felt lighter. So here I am, 3 months later. I don't go into the office anymore. I don't have to. Ouroboros Systems is now a strategic partner for Apex Logistics. I have a remote dashboard that tells me everything is running green. I hired a new CTO. He's 60 years old, wears suspenders, and hates the cloud. We get along great. He calls me once a month to ask permission to change a variable. I usually say yes. Robert, the CEO, survived, but he's grayer. The board kept him on a short leash. They know how close they came to total collapse. As for Braden, I heard he's at a startup in Austin now. Something about AI-generated dog food. Good luck to those dogs. I didn't get my job back, and thank God for that. I got something better. I got freedom, and I got respect. Not the kind of respect they give you with a plaque, but the kind of respect that comes from fear. They know that at any moment, if the check doesn't clear, the lights go out. I'm sitting on my patio right now. It's Tuesday at 11 o'clock a.m. I'm not coding. I'm not sitting in a meeting listening to someone use the word synergy. I'm drinking an iced tea and watching my dog chase a squirrel. Some people might say I played dirty, that I held the company hostage, that I was ruthless. To them, I say this: when you build the house, you keep a key, and when someone tries to throw you out into the cold, you don't beg to be let back in. You just change the locks and wait for them to realize it's cold outside. I checked my bank account again this morning. The quarterly retainer just hit. My dignity is intact. My bank account is full, and my code, it's running perfectly. Because unlike Braden, it actually works. Cheers. Big thanks for watching, you sneaky seniors. Subscribe to keep the coffee pot brewing revenge. Your ex-colleagues won't know what hit him.